Something is happening in Ohio, and it is not slow, it is not quiet, and it is definitely not what the rest of the country expected from a state that spent the last 30 years watching people leave. Ohio is growing, not everywhere, not all at once. But in certain towns, certain pockets, certain places that most people outside the Midwest could not find on a map. The growth is so fast, it is genuinely hard to keep up with. New businesses opening before the old ones finish their grand opening. Housing developments going up so quickly that neighbors wake up one morning and do not recognize their own street. Traffic where there was none. Restaurants with waiting lists in towns that did not have restaurants 2 years ago. This is not a story about Columbus, though Columbus will make an appearance because it earns it every single time. This is about the towns around it, beside it, and far from it that are experiencing something rare in the modern Midwest. Real momentum. Some of these towns are growing because of proximity to something bigger. Others are growing because they built something from nothing. A few of them are growing so fast that local infrastructure is genuinely struggling to keep up. And residents have feelings about that. Strong feelings. We are going to talk about what is driving the growth, what it means for people already living there, and whether this kind of speed is actually a good thing or the beginning of a very expensive problem. Subscribe if you want to understand where America is actually moving, not where the headlines say it is moving. Let us get into it. Number 10. Obetz. Most people outside Central Ohio have never heard of Obetz, and that is exactly how it has managed to quietly become one of the fastest growing communities in the state, without anyone making a big fuss about it. Obetz is a village just south of Columbus, with a population that has been climbing steadily as the Columbus Metro expands outward in every direction, like a slow but unstoppable tide. What is driving Obetz is logistics. The area has become a hub for warehousing and distribution, with massive facilities from major national companies choosing this location because of its highway access and proximity to Columbus. When those facilities arrive, workers follow. When workers follow, housing gets built. When housing gets built, everything else shows up behind it. The growth here is less glamorous than some other towns on this list. It is not artisan coffee shops and boutique hotels. It is concrete, forklifts, and 3-bedroom homes going up on land that was farm field 18 months ago. But the economic activity is real, the employment numbers are real, and the population curve is pointing sharply upward. The tension in Obetz, and it is a real tension, is between speed and planning. Growth that comes fast does not always come organized. Roads designed for a village are suddenly carrying truck traffic meant for an industrial corridor. Longtime residents who chose Obetz for its quiet character are watching that character change faster than local government can respond. That is the trade-off nobody mentions in the press releases. Number 9. Pataskala. Pataskala sits in Licking County, east of Columbus, and it is the kind of place that people end up in when they have been priced out of the closer suburbs. Newark is nearby, Columbus is commutable, and the land here is still open enough that developers can build without the complications of dense existing neighborhoods. The population of Pataskala has grown significantly over the past decade and shows no sign of slowing. New subdivisions are appearing with the kind of regularity that suggests someone somewhere is approving permits on a very fast schedule. The school system is under pressure, the roads are feeling it, and the local character, which was genuinely small town and agricultural not long ago, is shifting towards something more suburban with every passing year. What makes Pataskala interesting is who is moving there. Young families, primarily. People in their late 20s and 30s who want a house with a yard, a reasonable mortgage, and access to Columbus jobs without Columbus prices. They are not moving to Pataskala because it is exciting, they are moving because it is possible. And right now, possibility is a powerful pull. The local government has been working to keep up. Infrastructure investments, school expansions, and commercial development are all in progress. But in a town growing this fast, keeping up sometimes means running just to stay in place. Number 8. Lewis Center. Lewis Center is an unincorporated community in Delaware County, north of Columbus, and it represents something specific about Ohio's growth story. This is not a place that struggled and recovered. This is a place that got ahead of the wave and rode it perfectly. Delaware County has been one of the fastest-growing counties in Ohio for years. Lewis Center sits in the middle of that growth corridor and has absorbed a significant share of it. The schools here, part of the Olentangy Local School District, are consistently rated among the best in the state. And when schools are that good, families with choices choose them. And when families with choices keep arriving, the housing market responds, and the businesses follow, and the cycle accelerates. Number 4. New Albany. New Albany deserves its own category because what is happening here is unlike anything else in Ohio right now. This small city east of Columbus is at the center of one of the largest economic development stories in American manufacturing history. Intel announced plans to build a semiconductor fabrication campus in New Albany that represents an investment of up to $100 billion over the next decade. That is not a local story. That is a national story, and it is reshaping New Albany faster than almost any single economic event has reshaped any Ohio community in modern history. The population of New Albany was around 12,000 before the Intel announcement. The projections for what it becomes over the next 10 to 20 years are staggering. Tens of thousands of construction and manufacturing jobs, supplier facilities clustering nearby, housing demand that has already pushed prices up significantly. Infrastructure expansion happening at a pace that feels urgent because it is. New Albany was already an unusual place before Intel. It was built largely as a planned community with a distinctive architectural character and exceptional schools. The corporate campus model was already embedded in its DNA. So in some ways, the Intel investment landed in a community with the bones to handle it. Number 3. Powell. Powell, in Delaware County, just north of Columbus, is small, beautiful, and growing at a pace that its own residents openly talk about, with a mix of pride and anxiety. Population around 14,000 and climbing, Powell has consistently ranked among the best small cities in Ohio for quality of life, safety, and schools. And that reputation is both its greatest asset and its primary growth driver. When a place gets a reputation for being great, people want to move there. When people move there, the housing supply tightens. When the housing supply tightens, prices climb. When prices climb, the character of the community shifts toward those who can afford to be there. Powell is navigating all of this in real time. The downtown area of Powell is genuinely charming. Local restaurants, community events, a small town feel that somehow survives despite the development pressure pushing in from all sides. The Olentangy River runs nearby. The parks are well maintained. The schools are exceptional. On paper and in person, Powell is easy to fall in love with. The fastest growing demographic in Powell is young families relocating from Columbus and its closer suburbs, priced out of their first choice, but landing somewhere they quickly realize was actually a better fit. Word of mouth in this category is powerful, and Powell has benefited enormously from it. Number 2. Grove City. Grove City sits southwest of Columbus, and for a long time it was considered the working-class alternative to the more affluent southern suburbs. Affordable, functional, and a little overlooked. That era is ending rapidly. Grove City has been growing steadily for years, and the pace has picked up considerably as Columbus expansion pushes southward and westward. The population is now over 40,000, and the residential development has been intense. New subdivisions, townhome communities, and apartment complexes are changing the landscape of a city that still has a historic downtown at its heart that people genuinely love. The downtown Grove City district anchors the community's identity. Independent shops, restaurants, a farmer's market, seasonal events. It is the kind of downtown that growing cities often lose because growth tends to pull energy toward the new and commercial. Grove City has worked to protect it, and so far, it is holding. The employment picture in Grove City has improved significantly as the broader Columbus metro economy has strengthened. Retail and service jobs are plentiful. The location off Interstate 71 gives it logistical appeal for distribution and light industrial work. and the commute to downtown Columbus is manageable enough to make it a realistic option for people who work in the city. Number 1. Columbus. Of course it is Columbus. There is no honest list of fast-growing Ohio communities that does not begin and end with Columbus. The state capital, the largest city in Ohio, and one of the fastest-growing major cities in the entire United States. Columbus has been defying the Rust Belt narrative for 15 years, and it is not slowing down. The population of Columbus has surpassed 900,000 and is on a clear path to crossing 1 million. The metro population is already well past 2 million. The city has grown by more than 100,000 residents in the past decade alone. That is not suburb growth, bleeding into city limits. That is core city growth. People choosing Columbus itself, not just the counties around it. What is driving Columbus is a combination of factors that reinforces itself in a loop. Ohio State University generates a constant pipeline of graduates who stay because the opportunity is here. The tech sector has grown significantly with companies like Nationwide, JP Chase, and a growing startup community providing high-wage employment. Healthcare anchors a huge portion of the economy through systems like Ohio Health and Nationwide Children's Hospital. The cost of living relative to coastal cities makes Columbus feel like a discovery for anyone relocating from New York, San Francisco, or Boston. And then there is Intel. The semiconductor investment in nearby New Albany positions the Columbus region as a critical node in American technology manufacturing for the next several decades. The federal investment flowing into this region through the CHIPS Act is reshaping what Columbus means economically at a national level. The median household income in Lewis Center is well above the state average. The commercial development along the main corridors is polished and well-funded. This is suburban growth at its most organized and most relentless. New grocery stores, fitness centers, chain restaurants, and medical offices arrive at a pace that feels almost planned, because much of it is. The critique of Lewis Center from people who have watched it grow is that it is becoming indistinguishable from every other affluent suburb in America. The edges are smooth. The landscaping is managed. The character is comfortable but thin. Growing fast is one thing. Growing with soul is harder, and Lewis Center is still working on that part. Number 7. Westerville. Westerville has been growing for a while and has managed to do something that most fast-growing suburbs fail at. It kept its downtown. The uptown Westerville district is walkable, charming, full of independent businesses, and genuinely pleasant in a way that does not feel manufactured. That is rare in a place adding residents at this pace. Population in Westerville has crossed 60,000 and continues to climb. The city is north of Columbus, part of the expanding metro footprint, and draws people with its school district, its community feel, and its proximity to major employment centers. New residential development continues to push at the edges, while the center holds its character. Westerville also made national news in recent years for being the site of a nationally televised presidential primary debate. That kind of visibility reflects something real about how the city sees itself and how it wants to be seen. Not just a suburb, a place. The growth tension in Westerville shows up in housing prices, which have climbed sharply and put pressure on affordability. The people who built the community character over decades are now watching it become expensive enough to price out the next generation of people who would have done the same. That is a challenge that fast-growing places face everywhere, and Westerville is not immune. Number 6. Mason. Mason, in Warren County just north of Cincinnati, is proof that Ohio's growth story is not just a Columbus phenomenon. This city of around 35,000 has been one of the fastest-growing communities in southwestern Ohio for years, and the combination of factors driving that growth reads like a checklist that urban planners dream about. Great schools, low crime, strong local employment base including Kings Island Amusement Park as a major seasonal employer, and a significant corporate presence. Proximity to Cincinnati without Cincinnati prices. Parks, trails, recreation facilities, and a city government that has invested consistently in infrastructure to match the growth. Mason has added tens of thousands of residents over the past 2 decades, and the development pipeline remains active. New neighborhoods, commercial corridors, and mixed-use projects continue to expand the city's footprint into surrounding land. What Mason does well is manage expectations. The city communicates with residents. The planning process is visible. Growth feels intentional rather than accidental. That does not mean everyone is happy about every decision, because they are not. But the overall trajectory has been managed well enough that Mason regularly appears on best places to live lists in Ohio and nationally. The concern in Mason, voiced by longtime residents, is density. The city that once felt open and spacious is filling in. Traffic on the main corridors is real, and the quiet that people originally moved there for is harder to find. Number 5. Dublin. Dublin, Ohio, is what happens when a suburb decides to take itself seriously and then actually follows through. Located northwest of Columbus, Dublin has transformed over the past 3 decades, from a quiet bedroom community into a genuine destination with a distinct identity, an international sculpture park, a celebrated Irish festival, and a tech and corporate corridor that draws major employers. The population of Dublin is around 50,000 and continues to grow. Intel's massive semiconductor plant being built in nearby New Albany has accelerated interest and investment across the entire northwestern Columbus corridor, and Dublin is positioned to benefit significantly. The region is expecting tens of thousands of new jobs from that single investment, and the ripple effect on housing, services, and population is already being felt. Dublin's Bridge Street district is one of the most ambitious urban redevelopment projects in Ohio, transforming a car-dependent commercial strip into a walkable mixed-use corridor with apartments, shops, restaurants, and offices. It is still a work in progress, but it is a serious one. The challenge Dublin faces with fast growth is that it has spent years cultivating a specific image: planned, polished, premium. Rapid growth puts pressure on that image. More traffic, more demand, more strain on the character that made it desirable in the first place. Dublin is wealthy enough and organized enough to manage it better than most, but managing it perfectly is a different ask.